Hey there, YouTubers. JB Coins here with a just kind of a conversational video. Uh, it's not really in our category of our educational videos. What you see in front of you is just more or less as a prop, so you can kind of have an idea. Um, you got a $25 box there, and you've got some coins, new coins on the left from our last video, and some of our scrap copper on the right for contrast. The reason we're doing this is about 2 days ago, the media made a big deal, and it was a big deal, about the old gentleman in Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana, possibly a suburb of Monroe, Louisiana, but we'll get to that. He cashed in 45 years of collecting pennies, was how it was presented in the media. Now, to those of us that are coin collectors or coin hoarders or copper hoarders, there's some relevance to this. First off, how would you like to have been the guy that was able to buy those 5,000 pennies, $5,163 worth, I think it was, over 500,000 pennies that this gentleman accumulated over 45 years. Now, I use the term accumulated as opposed to collected, because when you dive a little deeper into the story of this gentleman, what he did was he wasn't collecting them. It just kind of became an obsession on his part, like it does for a lot of us, but a little different in his case. He basically started taking just pennies and throwing them in various containers, everything from a old metal kitchen sink or utility sink, water jugs like a lot of people have filled up through the years. They said something like 15 water jugs and God knows how many 5-gallon buckets and all that. When he finally brought them in to turn them into cash, and he needed them to pay for some bills. What he himself explained was that he basically was going through his change every day, and he would take every penny he had, just pennies, and he would throw them into one of the containers. He didn't check them, he didn't collect them, he didn't look through the 500,000 plus pennies to see if they were, of any value. To him, they were pennies. They were still of value, and he obviously accumulated $5,000 over a 45-year period. But can you imagine, he started doing that approximately 1965, they said. Now, in 1965, I was around, and I had an uncle that was very big into collecting pennies and coins and mercury dimes and silver certificates, and my grandmother did the same thing. They were both Depression era people, and so they were putting things away. They weren't checking them for rarity or anything like that. They were saving the silver and the silver certificates because they figured at some time those were going to be worth something, and they were right. In this gentleman's case, he was, what the term penny pincher, where he was throwing the pennies, accumulated the pennies, and had 500,000 pennies. Now think about when we go and find an error, or we find a wheat penny, or an Indian penny, or some other oddity that has a couple hundred, couple $1,000s worth of value. In 1965, there were a lot of Indian head pennies that were still in circulation. I know because as a kid I had quite a few, which is why I don't have any anymore, because as a kid there were plenty of them around. You just spent them on candy or comic books. This gentleman kind of pretty much had the same take from what I can tell. He also in the story threw them into one of those coin machines. It wasn't a Coinstar, it's a newer style that I've seen that one of the local grocery stores here has, and they charge 10% and up for sorting those pennies. So he may not have gotten his full value for what he put in the first place, and by not sorting through them and looking for error coins. And he was, granted, an elderly gentleman in his, I believe, late 70s. It wasn't his thing, you know, but man, if one of us could have got a hold of that and gone through it, it probably would have taken a year to go through that many pennies. He might not have had that much time to wait for what he needed to do. But how many of us would have not given him the full face value without the 10%, and maybe even a little more than the face value, maybe an extra 10%, just because of the potential of what could have been in all that pile of pennies. You know, it's one of those that you sit there and think, you know, copper hoards, silver hoards, gold hoards that people discover, wheat penny hoards that people find, where there's, you know, 100,000 pennies. This guy had 500,000 pennies. They weren't like this. They weren't 2015s. Now, there may have been some 2015s in there, but probably 90% plus were this. They were the older pennies. They were the old stuff. 60s, 70s, 80s that he was throwing in the jar, or in the jar or the drawer or the sink. But the pennies that were still in circulation back then, before people got into coin hoarding or copper hoarding, a lot of those rare coins today were still in circulation. So 2 days ago, a whole bunch of pennies hit that machine. And that machine went to an armored car company. And that armored car company went and rolled up all those pennies. So if you live anywhere near Monroe, Louisiana, I would, if it was me, I'd be going out buying as many boxes of pennies as I could over the next month or two, because you could wind up seeing some serious numbers of Indian heads and wheats showing up in your penny boxes there, as long as they're circulated, not like this last box that we had. Just wanted to throw that out there, more or less for the discussion aspect of it, because it just really struck me as, you know, my God, I wish I would have got my hands on that one. And in the process, maybe I could have helped the gentleman out on top of it. So hope you guys get some sort of interest in that, and see what your comments. I'd be really interested to see if your comments echo mine, or you think I'm just being a selfish SOB or something. I'm not sure, but really, I mean, you kind of cringe when you think about what could have been in that pile. At least I do. So till next time, thanks for watching, guys. Looking forward to the comments. JB Coins signing out.